Our story starts off with students going about their everyday lives, but a ray of light suddenly comes down to give them a one-way ticket to heaven. One of the students, Komoko, wakes up and finds herself in the body of a spider. She begins to panic and reasons that she has been isekai'd as a spider, but she accepts this fact surprisingly fast. Our spider friend begins to get hungry, so she looks what everyone's having and decides she's not that hungry after all. She heads back where she encounters her mother for the first time and sees her embracing her children by turning them into shish kebabs. Komoko decides her family reunion is not a vibe and leaves her siblings behind to become dinner. She wonders about her new environment and wishes she had an appraisal skill, so a voice tells her that she can spend all her skill points to obtain it. After getting the skill, she begins to use it on her surroundings and finds that it tells her common sense, so it's only a little above being useless. She begins to get hungry and explores a cave filled with monsters. She tries to use her appraisal skill, but the information assaults her mind and gives her a headache, so she nopes out of that direction and finds human footprints and rushes to them hoping they will help her. But encounters her brother looking less than healthy. She reminds herself that humans ain't a vibe and suddenly bust white fluids from her down under, then decides to use her web to create a comfortable home to chill in. She squirted so much all over the cave that she drained her stamina and is forced to go over to her brother to prove that the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, because she desecrates his loot box by turning him into her first meal. After doing this, our cannibal gain the title Kin Eater, which gives her access to an entirely new skill tree. Though she doesn't know how to use her abilities, something begins pulling on her web, so she goes to check it out to find a frog practicing BDSM. He uses slug bomb, which blinds some of her eyes, but she gains acid resistance. Having a taste for blood, Komoko decides that she's going to style on the defenseless creature by dodging all his attacks. Then goes behind it to deliver him to Jesus as he screams for mercy but receives none. After the animal breathes his last breath, she begins emoting over his body and congratulates herself on a job well done. Meanwhile, at a party, some of the other students reincarnated in the bodies of nobles. Their teacher, Philome, comes over to Shun and Katia and talks about their life in the new world, but Shun's sister Sue comes over and interrupts them, so they introduce Philome as their classmate. However, Sue is a little overprotective, so she takes them away to introduce them to more of their classmates, Hugo and Yuri. It's revealed that Shun's pet dragon is also a classmate, Faye, which tickles Hugo's funny bone. The next day, Shun sleeps in class as Hugo comes over to him to gloat about being in line to become the next king of his empire. He asks about Shun's older brother Julius, so he begins to tell him about his many exploits and reveals that his brother is the strongest human alive and aims to be on his level one day, but Hugo walks away saying he will become the strongest. Faye begins to wonder if her not being born human is a punishment handed down by the Almighty because she used to bully Komoko in school. We head back to our little monster terrorizing more wildlife and helping the frog out by making it a larger breathing hole as she levels up and gets healed back to full health, along with gaining new skills with a stat boost. Her web begins to move, so she goes and investigate to find a human. He lights himself on fire to escape the web and runs, leaving an earth dragon egg behind. Komoko decides to build herself a proper home pimped out with all the necessities needed for a proper introvert, then decides to celebrate with some scrambled egg, but the shell is tougher than she thought. So she attempts to use the laws of physics, but even Isaac Newton logics can't break it, so she gives up. All her alarms begin to alert her as a fire begins consuming our new home, so she decides to run right before she becomes a hashtag. Komoko decides that she needs to get stronger so no one will ever destroy her home again, so she goes forth into the world to take out her anger on all of Mother Nature's creations that was unfortunate enough to enter her path. Our little demon wanders the world and sees a creature minding its own business, so she tries to make it lunch, but she hears a sound in the distance and goes to check it out. She uses a leveled up appraisal that warns her that she's about to get jumped, so Komoko does the race until she escapes from her victim's family. The predator decides that she has slain enough enemies, so she rests, but hears something approaching her. Manda comes in to make her past tense, but Komoko isn't a beta and takes him on. She tricks it into ramming its head through her white fluids until its mouth is too sticky to open, as it uses tail whip and scores a critical hit. She shakes it off, then jumps up and decides to give it some head. It begins to struggle and cry in pain as she snatches its soul, but our little monster continues until it gives up on life. She evolves to level 10 and unlocks many skills, along with getting the option to evolve into a bigger version of herself or a smaller form of a greater species, so she chooses the latter, which causes her to pass out. Komoko awakens into her new form and realizes that she started back from level 1, so the first thing she decides to do as her new form is to feast upon her slain foe until nothing is left of its body but bones. She looks at her new skills Detect and Thread Control and decides to try them out. Detect floods her brain with information, so she decides not to use it. However, Thread Control gives her even greater control over her webs to go forth and assault all the other animals that she can get her hands on. She wanders the cave looking for more prey when she becomes the prey of humans who are overleveled. She decides to do the race but encounters another Manda, so she nopes out of that real fast, only to see 3 dino dudes blocking her path. Having no other choice, she breaks their ankles and leaves them to be slaughtered by the humans. But while she's distracted, Komoko runs off a cliff. Back at the academy, we find our other isekai friends getting ready for their practical. They take their wands, but the teacher only allows them to use water magic on the target for practice. Faye starts off by scoring a direct hit and questions why they don't use earth magic since she's an earth dragon, as Katia and Hugo also scores direct hits while Yuri spams her water magic so she can level up and hear her god again. They realize that Philomé is missing from class again, but no one knows where she is. Shun asks his sister to practice, but she refuses because she just wants to watch him style on people. Hearing this, Hugo decides to show them what real magic is and uses a fireball to blow the target apart, but he is scolded by Shun and the teacher for doing so. Faye hears something coming in the distance as a blast heads towards them, but their teacher sacrifices his life to block the attack. Hugo steps up and uses fire magic to spam it to no effect, so the dragon uses Tail Whip to take him out. Shun sees that everyone is in a panic and asks himself what his brother would do, then he draws his sword and rushes towards the monster as everyone follows to back him up. They start off by using water magic to knock it down, so Shun uses light magic to buff his stats and block the monster's flamethrower, but Hugo steps in front of him to mindlessly throw more fireballs, forcing Shun to save him from becoming a snack. Faye jumps up on the dragon and begins to feast on his flesh, giving Shun the opportunity to finish it off by making it a head shorter. All the students cheer them on for saving their lives but Hugo, who leaves being enraged. Faye sits down looking depressed in front of the dragon, so Shun uses appraisal on her and realizes that she is now a kin eater because the monster they just slayed was her parent. Realizing what she just ate, he falls to his knees and begins to spit rainbows while everyone tries to assist him. We return to our friendly neighborhood Komoko. Now at the bottom level of the cave, she explores her new environment where she sees a mantis one-shotting all the creatures around it. But a spider bro came forward and delivers a serving of karma. She decides to sneak around all the monsters but realizes that she needs to eat something. Komoko encounters many defenseless creatures minding their own business, so, of course, she grabs one and tries to make it her lunch, but it tastes so awful that for the first time, we meet something that even she doesn't want to eat. She moves on for more prey and sees a family of dinos chilling together and decides to put them in a pack, resulting in her gaining new skills. After having her meal, she tries out her new skill and realizes that she can now cast poison balls. She continues her journey into the labyrinth, while enjoying the scenery as a monkey suddenly comes to confront her. She decides to escape before it notices and sees that they hunt in packs. She runs away but suddenly encounters another monkey who tries to isekai her again, but she uses ultra instincts and webs his arm together. It begins swinging her around and accidentally wraps himself in her sticky fluids, so she goes in to deliver a lethal blow, but before he passes he releases a massive scream. She has him for lunch and goes to find a safe place to sleep. A mob of monkeys wake her up and begins to stone her, so she creates a barricade to block them, but some still manages to come through. They start to climb up, so Komoko uses her poison skill to drop on them and her sticky fluids to stop their ascent. The monkeys begin to overwhelm her and come over, so she decides to use their bodies as a wall. But the monkeys decides they rather go to monkey heaven than be used by her. One of them manages to get close enough and disarms her, so she feeds him with poison and gets ready to meet her maker, but she levels up just in time to be healed. She decides to use her webs to wrap them around the cliffside and bring down the whole wall on the apes to finish them off. She levels up again as even more monkeys arrive to be slaughtered, so she takes the high ground. The evolved monkeys throw boulders at her, so she makes a wall of webs and begins busting all over them, but one of the evolved apes goes for a running start and jumps up to her, so she throws stones to restrain it and slams the creature into the wall. It climbs up, but gets a belly full of poison to enjoy in hell, when another immediately attacks her, but our spider quickly subdues it and reunites the monkey with its brother. The last one seems to be hiding and attacks from behind to score a lethal blow on her, but Komoko decides she's not going to hell alone and uses her last bit of energy to feed the poor monkey her fluids to finish it off. She levels up just in time to heal and save herself from a fall, before deciding to make all the creatures she has just slain her lunch. Like the video. If you liked the video, subscribe for more, and thanks for watching. Stay swifty.